Canadians agree the media and their unions were in tank for the Liberals. I'm Brian Lilly with the Rebel.media. I know there's a media party. I've been around working journalist long enough to know it. I first remember noticing how coordinated things could be while I was working at Montreal City Hall. I've seen the same thing play out at other city halls, provincial legislatures that I've covered over the years. And for more than a decade, I've watched the main media party up close while working on Parliament Hill. But this past election was shocking to watch. The NDP and the Conservatives were vetted. Their leaders were questioned and questioned hard, and the media demanded answers. Not so with Trudeau. Trudeau was allowed to run a campaign where he didn't talk much about his policies. He wasn't questioned on his inconsistencies. Now, at one point, Trudeau was questioned. He was pushed on what his position was on the Trans-Pacific Partnership. But he didn't give answers. He didn't really answer at all. He just went on about consultations and engagement. I mean, here's an example. He's asked about trade policy. He talks about how he will consult.
One of the things that we need in this country is a government that actually respects parliamentary processes, that respects and strengthens parliamentary committees, that listens to expert testimonies, that listens to provincial premiers and sits down and talks about big issues from the environment to healthcare to trade.
He never really said much about his position. He dodged. He talked about consulting other people, not his own view. Now imagine for a minute if Stephen Harper had done that day after day, or if Thomas Mulcair had done that day after day. They would have faced stories about how they won't answer questions, they're dodging the media. Every mainstream media outlet would have hounded them. Not so for Trudeau. Also in the middle of the campaign, when stripping terrorists of their citizenship became an issue, Trudeau jumped out and said, "Hey, this is horrible. It should never be allowed to happen in Canada." So I asked him after the Munk debates in front of all the other media outlets, why was it okay for Liberal governments, including the one led by his father, to strip Nazi war criminals of citizenship, but it wasn't okay to strip citizenship from those convicted of terrorism or of taking up arms against Canada? And Trudeau just said, "Oh, there's a big difference."
Revocation of citizenship can and should happen in situations of becoming a Canadian citizen on false pretenses. Indeed, when people have lied as on their applications, those applications get rescinded even years later. But this is a very different situation of creating a penalty for someone just because their parents were born in another country. Canada is not a country of fear and division. Canada is a country of laws and rights, and that's what we will hold to.
Does the law say you have to actually commit an act and be convicted?
The act was fraud on their citizenship application, Mr. Lilly.
Next question.
That answer was a load of crap. Trudeau was trying to say lying on your application to come to Canada was worse than taking up arms against Canada or being convicted of terrorism. And he also made it sound like people would lose their citizenship based on where their parents were born, rather than on their own actions. The media didn't call him out on this. They didn't point to his inconsistencies. In fact, they more often than not repeated his lies. Now, I know the media is biased in favor of the Liberals. You know the media is biased in favor of the Liberals, and our poll results show we're not alone. We commissioned 2 questions as part of a national poll. There were 1,507 Canadians surveyed using a national online panel. The poll was conducted October 26th and 27th. The results are considered accurate within plus or minus 2.5 percentage points, 19 times out of 20. We asked 2 questions, or to be more accurate, we presented 2 statements to people. And then we said, do you agree or disagree? It's a standard polling method. The first statement was, the television news media showed significant bias towards the Liberals during the federal election. 49% of Canadians agreed with that statement, 51% disagreed. So half the country says yes, half the country says no. But across Canada, it ranged from a low of 42% in BC, rising to 53% agreeing in Alberta, 55% agreeing in the Prairies, 49% in Ontario and Quebec, and 46% agreeing in Atlantic Canada. Yes, even Atlantic Canada, where the Liberals took every seat. Almost half of people in that region still think there was a Liberal media bias during the campaign. Shouldn't matter whether you're a Conservative supporter, a New Democrat supporter, heck, even Liberal supporters should be worried about this. Columnists and commentators like myself, we're expected to give our opinions, to show our biases but you know what? News reporters, they're supposed to be objective. They claim to be neutral. I don't think they were this last election, neither do half of Canadians. Trust in the media is falling. This is part of the reason. So too is the decision by media unions to insert themselves into the election, become active political organizations. Because in the past, journalist unions, unlike most other unions, wouldn't voice themselves during election campaigns. But the last Ontario election, the main union representing print journalists for Sun Media Papers, The Star, The Globe, they all came out and endorsed Kathleen Wynne and the Liberals. This federal election, that same union, Unifor, they were a registered third party campaigning against Stephen Harper and the Conservatives. They weren't campaigning for something to do with workplace rules or safety. No, they were campaigning to get the Conservatives out. And the union representing CBC journalists, they were also an active registered third party campaigning for more money for CBC. And guess what? Trudeau and the Liberals they promised the most money. So we put a second statement to Canadians and asked them to say whether they agreed or disagreed. Here's the statement. The reporters' unions, the Canadian Media Guild, and Unifor campaigning against the Conservatives during the election is proof the media is biased. A full 55% of Canadians agreed with that statement. The low point, just 50% agreed in BC and Atlantic Canada, 53% in Ontario, 56% in Quebec, 61% in Alberta, and 67% in the prairies. Look, I get campaigning for issues, I get advocacy journalism, it's what I do. But the media party in this country has to decide what they want to do. Are they going to be advocacy journalists? And I think they already are. Or are they going to keep claiming to be neutral, to be objective? Because if you're going to be neutral, be neutral. Stop being biased. I have my doubts that's ever going to happen, though. Just today, the Toronto Red Star published a piece in conjunction with the Far Left Tides Foundation pushing Tim Flannery's climate change agenda. Tides, a far-left, American-based super foundation that funnels money from U.S. billionaires to anti-oil and anti-industry groups in Canada, is the Star's new publishing partner on an ongoing political and scientific story. Will you be able to believe a word from them now on this issue? I won't, and I doubt you will. It's why faith in the mainstream media is failing. It's why more and more of you are turning to the Rebel every single day. Our audience keeps growing, keeps expanding. We keep expanding because we're honest with you and we trust you and you trust us. Like I keep saying, we aren't just bitching about the other guys and complaining there's a problem. We're pointing out that there is a problem, but we're also building a solution, the Rebel. I want to thank all of you that chipped in and helped fund the poll. Everyone that's chipped in and helped fund anything regarding the Rebel over the last several months. We would not exist without you. You are help building this enterprise. So thanks for the help, thanks for watching, and thanks for sharing this. And remember, I'm on your side.